It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome to the show. We've got a very unique show planned for you today. It's kind of a hybrid show where we've got an interview with Suzanne Downing, very interesting interview about barred owls and spotted owls you'll hear from in just a minute. We've also got interviews with Jay Anglin. He's going to tell you about some wonderful merino wool gloves that you're just going to absolutely love if you're a hunter or a fisherman. And we're going to talk about the evolution of gloves for hunters in the wild. It's an interesting evolution indeed. Finally, with Veterans Day having just occurred, we're going to talk to Matt Amos with Wounded Warrior Outdoors. And you know, it's worth noting that the Great Armistice Day storm happened back in 1940. Hundreds of duck hunters went out hunting for the Armistice Day holiday. They got caught in weather that they didn't know was coming, and many of them froze to death. It was the worst disaster for hunters that's ever occurred. Hundreds of duck hunters died that day. Look it up. Just look up the Armistice Day duck storm, and you'll find out all about it. And I should also note, you know, this is the traditional time of year that those northern birds start moving south. There's something about Veterans Day that just seems to move those mallards down. So if you're a duck hunter, it's a great time of year to be out in the field, and I hope you're taking advantage of that situation. Before we talk more about hunting, though, let's talk a little bit again about owls with Suzanne Downing.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. Our next stop is the great state of Alaska. That's where you're going to find Suzanne Downing. She is a conservative commentator and a blogger, and she just wrote a great article about Senator John Kennedy's calling out of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's DEI plan to kill off barred owls to level the playing field for spotted owls. Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's great to be here. Now, as people will remember, that one of the most heated debates in environmental history in the United States had conservationists and the government saying that the spotted owl was being decimated by the timber industry, and so the government basically shut down the timber industry in the Northwest, and that's Oregon and Washington. There were thousands of jobs lost, mills that shut, towns that never recovered, and it was quite the reign of terror on the logging industry, only to then later on discover that it was the barred owl that was moving into the spotted owl's territory and hunting and kind of being more effective at hunting. And so here we are now in 2025. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has got a DEI program. They're going to level the playing field so that spotted owl can hunt again. They're going to remove nearly 500,000 of these barred owls that have moved into the territory in Oregon, Washington, California, all in the hopes that they can save the spotted owl again, like they tried to save it the first time. Only this time they're just doing genocide on the barred owl.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's important to note, folks, the barred owl is not an invasive species. It is a species of owl that's naturally migrating to the west and the northwest. And the fact of the matter is they're just out competing the spotted owl in every way, aren't they?
Yeah, it's not an invasive species. Up here in Alaska, we have things like green crabs that are moving in and things like that are more invasive, that are actually a problem. But the barred owl is not a problem. It's just an effective hunter, and it's moving around into different territories, as animals will do. And so I think it's very interesting that we've decided that we have to lay it all on the line for the spotted owl. So we're going to decimate half of the barred owl population. That's just madness, quite honestly. And I kind of pull no punches on it in my story about it. I've got Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, and he's been talking about this. And I find it interesting because in Alaska, we've had our logging shut down too, not for the spotted owl, but for other reasons, just rainforest reasons, climate change reasons. And who's going to stand up and defend the logging industry? And it's a little bit late for that, but at least I'm really glad that John Kennedy is bringing this up. And it's a DEI program for animals. We really have to be thinking about whether or not that's the government's job.
So the Fish and Wildlife Service under the Biden administration finalized what it calls their barred owl management strategy, which is a plan to kill anywhere from 453 to 500,000 barred owls for the next 3 decades in the Pacific Northwest at a cost of $1.35 billion. How are they going to go about killing these barred owls?
With professional hunters, they're not actually going to allow people to go out and hunt them. Like down in Florida, they allow people to go out and hunt pythons in the Everglades and stuff. No, they're going to have professional hunters hunting them. So it's not exactly like they're doing any favors to our hunting community.
Now, Senator John Kennedy, that very witty and sharp-tongued senator from Louisiana, he had some comments about this plan, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I mean he's a guy who has the best quips ever. This guy is he could have his own night comedy show.
Oh, I agree with you completely. And
and we're lucky because we're having him up to Alaska this month. He's coming as a special guest at the Alaska Republican Party Gala, which is their big annual fundraiser. And he went on Twitter or X as we call it and made some very witty comments, which I don't know, maybe you could play for them, but he calls it DEI for owls, and that's the best line ever.
Oh, yeah. No, and to quote him here from your article, he says, spotted owls good, barred owls bad, but if the barred owls won't lose their constitutional rights, they'll kill them. They're going to kill 453,000 of them, dead as Jimmy Hoffa. Like I said, very witty man.
Yeah, the guy has got a million great lines. Typical Louisiana wit.
So here's another question for you, and this kind of goes off the topic of the article. Does the government have the right or duty to interfere with what's clearly Darwinian evolution?
I think that's the question that we all ought to be asking. What is the government's role? Is it now kind of moving out of its boundaries? Government will fill any box that you put it in, and then it will start to spill over, and then you'll just build a bigger box, and it'll fill that box too. And in this case, we've got the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service sort of playing God, actually. And well, would this happen with another species? For instance, one species, a wolf, starts moving into another wolf territory, and we say, well, we can't have that. So at what point do we just say that's too much? We can't allow that to happen. We've got to let nature just make its decisions. There are lots of species that have gone by the wayside from the dinosaurs on up, and that will continue through time. My guess. I mean, I don't know. I can't predict the future, but I don't think that we're done seeing species become extinct.
I think you're absolutely right about that. Let's turn our attention to your brand new website, thealaskastory.com. What are folks going to find there?
Very good. Thank you for that. Well, for about 10 years, I've been running another website that I founded and launched, and then I passed that off to some other folks, and then I'm starting a new website, thealaskastory.com, conservative news, commentary, analysis, and what our motto is where the conversation happens, because we need a platform in Alaska for conservative conversation. It's really hard to get our voices heard in the mainstream media. So I'm just taking what I did before and recreating it. We've got a podcast, we have the website, and then a newsletter that goes out 3 times a week to really help Alaskans be informed on the other side of these questions. We've got a lot of hunters who follow us, a lot of pilots, a lot of conservative Alaskans, and so today is launch day. So we're very busy today.
Well, congratulations. Again, folks, the website, thealaskastory.com. Check it out if you want to keep up with what's going on in the last frontier. And she also covers news, as you just heard, from other parts of the country, too, that have to do with conservation and environmentalism. Suzanne,
Correct.
Keep up the great work, and thanks for what you're doing on America Outdoors Radio.
Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love to fish? Do you love to eat fish? Well, if you do, you know how important it is to have something to keep things sharp. Now, in the boat, it might be something to keep your hook sharp, like maybe the pocket knife sharpener from Work Sharp, which also works just fine along with the guided field sharpener for keeping fillet knives sharp. So when it comes to cleaning those fish you catch for the day, you can get that done in a hurry. And let's not forget, back at the house, when you're preparing those fish for a meal, that's when you want to have a kitchen knife sharpener, and there's several electric ones available. You can find them all at worksharptools.com, which lists all sorts of both manual and electric sharpeners you can use in the kitchen, in the shop, or in the field. Sharp hooks and sharp knives make for a happy day on the water, so get your sharpener today at worksharptools.com or look for these products at quality sporting goods stores and hardware stores near you.
Modular. When it comes to getting the most out of your Camp Chef 2-burner propane stove, that's the word to use. Sure, you can cook directly over either burner with a pot or pan, but how about putting a grill box on to serve up burgers, steaks, or chicken? Put a griddle on to cook up your breakfast. Pizza? We've got that covered too with our pizza oven that you place right over the stove. Whatever you're cooking while camping or at home, Camp Chef has got you covered. Find out more about modular stove accessories at campchef.com today.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Kruse through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. It's hunting season, and it's time to talk about something really important for hunters. That is the gloves that you wear this time of year. With us here to give you some ideas on some great gloves to use is Jay Anglin. He's with Traditions Media, representing ScentLok Technologies. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John.
I understand you've been hunting up on Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I presume you're going after white-tailed deer. How's it going?
I was not. I was up there waterfowl hunting and bird hunting, and it went pretty well. It's that time of year. You got to juggle a little bit of everything. And my son and a buddy, one of his buddies, and I went up there, and we did pretty good. There was the migration starting to finally kick in. It was really slow. It's been warm in the Great Lakes overall, and that's really impacted, the waterfowl. But, amazingly enough, I'm up there, and when I was lucky enough to grab a cell signal, the number of big bucks coming down in northern Indiana and Illinois and Ohio and southern Michigan is just staggering. So I kind of wished I'd been here in a tree stand. So hopefully I'll get out this week and get after some whitetails.
Well, let's talk a little bit about hunting gloves. This is something I have struggled with for years. So in the beginning, I was, a young private in the Army, and these leather gloves with wool inserts, and they worked okay. They weren't obviously completely weatherproof, and good luck trying to fire a rifle or anything else with this stuff. Fortunately, things have evolved quite a bit since then, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. The technology is just off the charts now. And back not more than, it was probably 15, 20 years ago, things were kind of ramping up. And I've always been a skier and a hunter and an angler, and I still just wasn't happy with most gloves. And then all of a sudden here in the last few years, it's just a whole nother level of comfort and all the assets you want, as far as, warmth and elasticity and all those things. I mean, they're a game changer. And honestly, for things that have advanced to the level that they have, there's a lot of value in these. I mean, they're actually, some of the gloves that I've been using were than the ones I used to wear 20 years ago that were a tenth as good, So yeah, we're in a good place with gloves for sure.
Right. And, I graduated from those Army gloves to some, waterfowling, waterproof gloves. Same issue, though, trying to, actually get your finger in on the trigger and pull it consistently was a difficult thing. So then I went to fingerless gloves. And I had some fleece gloves, which were great as long as you didn't get them soaking wet. And I had some really rough wool gloves, which were okay, but, they came sloppy and soggy, and that didn't work so good either. And that's why I'm kind of excited about the gloves that ScentLok Technologies has rolled out here. They're fingerless gloves, but they're made of wool merino. Tell our listeners more.
So merino wool is really, you remember when like all these different miracle fabrics came out, and it was always that was the buzz, the term miracle fabric, membranes and all that. Well, merino's natural, and it's wool, and it's produced in multiple countries. It's from Spain originally, actually, but it's much finer than your typical lamb's wool. And the way it's processed, you're talking about, well, certainly in this case, it's a 19.5 micron, fiber. So to put that in perspective, a human hair is 50 to 100 microns. So you're talking about a very thin fiber. And so regular, I reluctantly use the term cheap, but premium merino is much different than like just your general kind of run-of-the-mill merino, in that it's a finer fiber. So why is that important? It's softer. It's incredibly soft, and it weaves tighter. So you have more of, because it's a denser fabric, if you will, or the way these gloves come out, they're thicker, but they're not thicker. So it's a denser, weave. And therefore, all those great benefits of using merino are actually even, they're even better with that, the way these are made. So, you're looking at, in a nutshell, you have that elasticity that's nice. They're not tight. They're not bulky. They're trim. They're warm. Their thermal values range is tremendous. You can wear them when it's early season, mid season. I wear gloves like this. I'm also a fishing guide, and I'll wear them, out when it's really cold, and I'll keep my hands in my pockets. And so I'm a river guide, and I'm out in some really crappy weather, and so I can just put these in my pocket, because the fingerless thing to me is super important. For years I was cutting fingers off of gloves, and or you got the new ones that can do the cell phone thing, and some of those work okay, but having that tactile ability with your finger is really important. And you talked about triggers. You talked about that. Having the ability to have, that trigger control and that discipline with your actual finger, to me, whether you're pulling a release on, if you're bow hunting or you're pushing that into a rifle or a shotgun, these are really important, things to think about when you're considering what glove you're going to buy. I think those are critical, aspects of choosing the right glove.
These merino wool gloves, they have a couple of other advantages. Number one, they're temperature regulated, aren't they?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Merino in general we're talking from sun hoodies to gloves and every base layer, you can imagine. ScentLok has some great other, merino products, and, there's a zip tee, there's a hoodie, and the socks are unbelievable. And one of the reasons the socks are so, and this is important for the gloves as well, is that merino has a natural antimicrobial property. And so, not only are they breathable, that's another great asset, the breathability, but they have an antimicrobial property. And so that alone helps with the thermal regulation. But in addition to that, you get that insulating quality that obviously you're wearing gloves because you feel like you need a glove on because it's chilly or it's downright cold. And so these things are so versatile. You don't really ever, when I put them on and it's a little warmer, it's not like you get hot. You don't want to peel them off. The more you wear them, the more you want to wear them. And I think that can be said for a lot of these merino, products. They're just, again, they're a miracle fiber, but they're natural. And that's really what's kind of remarkable, that it's taken this long to reach this level of technology and such an incredible, useful, fabric, if you will, or woven fabric that's made of a natural fiber in the outdoor industry. This is the answer for a lot of us. You and I obviously have gone around the same path with gloves. And boy, I am not a big glove wearer for that very simple reason. Then I got a pair of these and I'm like, wow, okay, now we're on to something for sure.
Well, I'm looking at the press release. They are some good-looking gloves. They come in just kind of a dull brown, which, of course, blends in with anything you're doing in the outdoors. And, again, they're available from ScentLok Technologies. Are they on the shelves now?
Yeah, I believe they're in stock, or they will be very shortly. And, at $24.99 retail, I mean, you can't go wrong. And I always tell people, I'm like, look, if you don't believe in the merino thing, because the fact is, you talked about your big clunky gloves, a lot of people think of that scratchy, bulky wool. Well, this isn't that. This is a different deal. So, get the gloves, get a pair of the socks, try them, and then I promise you'll eventually be looking at base layers. You'll be looking at, for both top and bottom. I mean, it's just that versatile and comfortable.
Well, there you go, folks. Fingerless gloves made of merino wool from ScentLok Technologies. Look for them at stores near you or online and get warmer and get more comfortable in the outdoors today. Jay, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me, John.
In today's news, I'm cooking a brisket. Let's go to Jill at my house to see how it's going.
This is your house and you brought me and the crew to check on your brisket?
That's correct, Jill. How's it looking?
This is a Camp Chef Woodwind Wi-Fi. You can check your cook right from your phone, right?
I didn't know that was an option, Jill. Well, never mind. But before you leave, can you feed the dog?
What? No.
When we get back, why is my check engine light on? The answer may shock me.
When you think of Henry Repeating Arms, you likely think of their American-made classic lever-action rifles and beautiful Golden Boy and Tribute Edition rifles. It doesn't stop there, though. Henry also has the Henry Long Ranger and lever-action Supreme models, as well as their big boy revolvers, the 9mm Homesteader carbine, and the venerable AR-7 survival rifle. Check out the entire line of Henry Repeating Arms firearms and find an authorized dealer near you at henryusa.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We told you earlier in the show about Field & Stream. It's in a digital format now, but you really do need to read it. And if you go to fieldandstream.com, you can just go to the current issue. It's the Great Escapes issue. Pay $3.99, and you're going to read an edition of Field & Stream that is every bit as good as the ones you remember in print. With us today to talk about one of those Great Escapes is T. Edward Nickens. He's the editor-at-large for Field & Stream. He's also the author of a brand new book called The Last Wild Road. That's a collection of stories he has written for Field & Stream over the last 20 years. Eddie, it's great to have you back on the air.
Always a hoot to be with you.
So, your Great Escape was about an Arizona jackrabbit hunt, which is a really unique hunt. And before we get into it, I guess the first thing I want to do is talk about rabbit hunting. So most rabbit hunters in America, they're after eastern cottontails. You were after antelope jackrabbits. Why don't you describe some of the differences between the two?
The differences are huge. I mean that. I mean that literally.
Yes.
As well as figuratively. These are possibly the largest lagomorphs on the planet. I'm not a tall guy, but when I picked up an antelope jackrabbit by the tips of its ears, they reached well past my belt buckle.
Wow.
They're huge. They're giant animals. They are so much fun to spot and stalk hunt. It's like a cottontail and a pronghorn, went to a drive-in movie and showed up a few months later with these. They're incredible animals. They are extremely wary. They live in just beautiful, austere country, and they're fine to eat. Man, it was a kick, no doubt.
I understand these antelope jackrabbits can reach incredible speeds.
Yeah, they can blister, and thankfully, they don't turn on the afterburners unless they really, really have to. But you figure where they live, they got to get away from coyotes. They got to get away from mountain lions in places, and certainly historically. So they can burn it up. Now, they'll typically start off with a little loping gait, and when you can cover that kind of ground with 4 feet, they don't have to burn it up. But, man, once they go, and you got no choice but to pull your rifle down and just enjoy the show.
Let's talk about what time of year this hunt took place and where this hunt took place in Arizona.
Yeah, so we were hunting in the winter. It was in early February when we were there. Winter being the coolest time of year in the Sonoran Desert. But it was still pretty warm during the day, a couple of days, short sleeves while we were stalking. At night, nice and cool weather. Exactly where we were hunting, we were precisely between Tucson and Mexico City in terms of our exact location. These animals range widely, and they're on huge private ranches. They're on big expanses of public land. Hunting in Arizona, my hunting buddy was Jonathan O'Dell, who's the small game biologist for Arizona. So we were hunting on public lands, open to the public for hunting, for camping, which is what we did, which is a lot of fun. A really big positive to this trip was the fact that we got to camp out in the desert.
Sounds like a ton of fun.
Super cool. Riding ranch roads, riding, public county roads to get to places where we would spot and stalk. It's kind of like hunting pronghorns, during the breeding season. You get to a good place, you caporize, and you glass, and you walk, and you look, and man, it's a hoot.
Eddie, you alluded to some of the hunting you were doing with these jackrabbits. I was really taken, though, with your morning hunts. You'd camp out in the desert overnight. You'd eat breakfast, shoulder a day pack with some water, I'm sure. And why don't you talk about the morning hunts for these jackrabbits?
Yeah, the morning hunts were super cool. The sun is coming up over that low, flat desert, and what happens is when it backlights a bunny, the ears glow, 2 orange popsicles. And so it's crazy when you first see it, and you don't really know what's going on, but then you really start to key in on the rabbit's ears. And even when that doesn't happen, in the morning, these animals are sort of tucked into dense vegetation, or they got their butts up against a tree, sort of digest what they've eaten as they feed, mostly during the night, my understanding is. And so you're stalking and you're looking, and you've got this search image in your head of this big old rabbit kind of scrunched down up against a creosote or a cactus, and that's what you're looking for, because if you don't see that, what you see is the back end of a rabbit going really, really fast. So you try to catch a sight of them before that happens.
Speaking of the cactus, I think people think of southern Arizona and they always think of those classic big cactus. Is that what they were hanging out with, or was it different cactus? And I also understand you got to get very up close and personal with some cactus too.
I did indeed, and being a southern boy, I pride myself on being able to handle briars and stickers and all that kind of unpleasantries. But yeah, it was another world out there. I mean, you ask about what kind of cactus, I'll tell you all of them, all at once. Actually, the big saguaros were a little bit of a rarity where we were, but the cholla cactus, lots of these prickly pear, I don't know, I would just call them either dang cactus or stupid cactus or blip 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 cactus if I had to name them, but they were everywhere. Yeah, and I had one really funny episode where I got stuck in the foot and reached down. I got stuck in the hand, and you get briar in your hand when you're bunny hunting. Back home in the South, you just pull it out with your teeth.
No.
So it was a up close, personal, and kind of painful was my experiences with the cactus. Although there was one, and Jonathan told me about this one cactus, and I was eating the flowers and snacking on the flowers. I don't remember which one it was. That was kind of cool.
That is cool. Let's talk about jackrabbits as table fare. This was really a fascinating part to me in your story. You had some really interesting tidbits about how jackrabbits really made up diets for a lot of folks during the Depression, and how Jack O'Connor, one of the most famous hunting and shooting writers in the world, subsisted on jackrabbits for a time.
Yeah, Jack O'Connor was sort of known as the dean of long-range rifle shooting, and he cut his teeth sniping these jackrabbits in this very region where we were hunting. And they make for great table food. Jonathan O'Dell is literally one of the country's best wild game cooks, and he cooked rabbits in black iron skillet. He cooked jackrabbits in a hole in the ground. I don't know how he couldn't cook a jackrabbit. And they were absolutely delicious. And let me tell you, that big old rabbit is a big old pot of meat, and that's what helped a lot of these farmers and old ranching families get by in the Dust Bowl days and the Great Depression. Communities would have jackrabbit drives, which is exactly what you think it is, where they'd line up across the landscape and walk these things down because that was about the only thing they had to eat.
Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating stuff. Folks, again, you got to check out this article. It's in the Great Escapes edition. That's the current edition of Field and Stream. And you can go to fieldandstream.com and just go to where the magazine is. It's digital now. It's not print anymore. Just pay $3.99. You can read all of this story and lots of other great ones. Before we go, though, I want to talk about your new book. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about The Last Wild Road?
Hey, for sure. Thanks for asking about that. The Last Wild Road just hit bookshelves in mid-May. Doing well, gotten a lot of great reviews, a lot of good love from the industry. It's a collection of the best of my work in Field and Stream over the last 18 years. So we've got about 30 of my shorter essays, the total outdoorsman essays in there, and another 30 long features from Alaska to every part of the continent. I'm super excited about the book. It's a beautiful cover. And yeah, hope folks check it out. The Last Wild Road, available at Amazon, big bookstores, little bookstores, online, you name it.
Well, I'm certainly going to be picking it up because, Eddie, you are truly one of America's favorite writers when it comes to fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. And I love your adventures, and I'd like to thank you for sharing this one with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Always happy to be here, John.
More habitat equals more wildlife. Pheasants Forever is working hard every day to ensure there's more wildlife habitat for the future. Join the habitat leader and help create wildlife habitat in your community. To join us, go to pheasantsforever.org.
Looking for the perfect gift for the hunter or shooter in your life? Give them a Henry. These American-made lever-action guns shoot straight and have a classic Western look. Choose from a .22 caliber Henry for plinking, a heavier caliber for hunting, or even a shotgun for birds and small game. Better still, these guns come in all sorts of finishes, covering everything from use in the field or on the range to showing off the best-looking firearm in your zip code. Henry rifles and shotguns come with a lifetime guarantee. And if you help need deciding what Henry is right for you, just ask. The award-winning customer service team at henryusa.com will be happy to help you out. So, go to henryusa.com and order a free catalog and holiday gift guide. Then, find what you like, look for a dealer near you, and get a gift that will put a real smile on someone's face this holiday season. Start searching for your Henry now at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com.
Explore the Dalles, the hub where discovery and history come together. Whether the Northwest is your home or you're on an adventure, the Dalles welcomes you. Just 80 miles east of Portland is the perfect year-round escape with a community that cares about you. 300 days of sun, breathtaking outdoor recreation, and a downtown full of the unexpected. Oh, and the rich history that began before the Oregon Trail. Start planning at explorethedalles.com.
Are you looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook because we've got it right here for you. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer affordable platforms to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting John Kruse through his website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Hurry, though. If you wait too long, the big opportunity might just get away. AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
Maybe this is you too. People are enormously frustrated with the cost of healthcare right now. There is an option. Hundreds of thousands of people have gone with MediShare. They like it more, and they're saving a lot of money. Perfect time for you to join, too. Apply before November 15th, and they will waive your application fee. That's $100 you'll be saving right off the bat, in addition to the thousands you can save every year. Call them now. Here's the number, 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. MediShare is a community of Christians who've shared more than $9 billion in medical bills. It has worked beautifully for decades. And with so many people re-examining their options right now, seeing premiums going up and up, this is a great time to take advantage of this offer. Just tell them the promo code SHARE and save $100 before November 15th. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. Veterans Day is coming up. We always like to highlight organizations that help out our veterans and our active duty service members too. And one such organization is Wounded Warrior Outdoors, based in Orlando, Florida. With us here to tell you more about the great work they're doing is Matt Amos. He's the executive director. Matt, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having us on.
Let's start off with the history of this organization. I got to interview the founder, Ron Raboud, a few times. What was the genesis of this?
It's almost kind of WWO lore at this point. So Ron's father was a World War II veteran and was catastrophically injured, to the point that they had pronounced him deceased. And one of his buddies came to pay his last respects, and he started breathing. And so his father had a long recovery, as well as his uncle had also served in Vietnam and had some issues coming back from that. And so I think that the seed had always been planted there for Ron, and then he had been flying back on from a business trip and had been sitting next to some warriors, and they were reading some hunting magazines, and they got to talking about hunting, and Ron just thought, you know what, this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I have the means to do, and so he started WWO with just a few warriors to begin to what we're at today, which is about between 75 and 80 warriors a year that we take out on outdoor adventures.
All right, we'll talk about those adventures in a minute. Let's talk about the purpose of WWO. Now, you actually do something unique. You're not just servicing veterans after the fact. You're after actually wounded servicemen and women, and I understand that you actually reach out to Walter Reed Medical Center?
Yeah, so, in the beginning, that's where our warriors were coming directly from. So they would be injured on the battlefield. I'm one of those guys. I was injured in 2011, which resulted in a traumatic amputation of both of my legs. And as I'm sitting there recovering in the hospital, I'm thinking, man, I love to hunt. I love to fish. It's not a matter of if I'm going to do it again. It's a matter of how. And, that's where I met Ron, was at the hospital. And he actually came by, did a presentation, and my therapist came down and said, hey, there's this guy that does this hunting stuff, and he's doing a presentation today if you want to, go downstairs and check it out. So ended up going down there, meeting Ron, hearing all about WWO and what they did. At that point, it became a mission, because the trip, much like the Marine Corps, wasn't given to me. I had to earn it. And so I had to go back to physical therapy and meet these markers before I could go on a bear hunt in British Columbia. But there was nothing that could stop me from going on that hunt. And so I put out max effort in physical therapy and earned my way onto that trip. And as we've gotten further away from combat, and deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, it's become more of kind of word of mouth, like, hey, who do you know that may have slipped through the cracks when all this was going on? Who do you know that needs some help? So right now, our referral system is a lot of word of mouth, because there's just not that many warriors, fortunately and thankfully, coming through the military hospital systems.
So does that mean you're also servicing combat veterans that are wounded as well?
Yeah, combat wounded veterans is our focus, and that's who we cater to. And we do bring some Vietnam veterans in that are more mentors at this point, not to hunt, but more from a mentorship point of view.
Before we get into the adventures, because you offer some really unique hunting and fishing trips, all expenses paid for the veterans, how do these trips help our veterans?
It's so funny. I just got back from an elk hunt in Montana, where we took one warrior this year. We typically host two, but one unfortunately was not able to draw, and then the donated tag system with Montana is very difficult to navigate sometimes. And so we ended up with one warrior this year. And I'd never met this gentleman before, and as we're sitting there, just chatting after dinner one night, the topic turns more serious topics, and we just start discussing. And it just so happened that this gentleman and I were in the same exact location at the same time, and he starts mentioning this guy that got injured, and I'm like, well, I know that gentleman. I was at the hospital with him when we recovered together, and I was like, dude, he's doing fantastic, and I think that just helps lift the spirits, and that's what it's about. The hunt is kind of the lure at the on the end of the line, and as a way to get people in, but where the real magic happens and what we're really about is it's not about the hunt. It's about those personal connections that take place while you're there. And one of the things with WWO that we pride ourselves on is we have warriors that we bring in and we truly appreciate their service and what they've done for our country and the impact that it's had on their lives, but the impact that it's had on everybody's life around them. And we bring them in as respected and honored guests, and they leave as family. And that's what's really, really unique about this organization. That and I've been around a lot of organizations, and this one's just truly special in the way that it just kind of creates a family atmosphere and friends that can check in on you from time to time. Just, hey man, how you doing? And that's what's really special about WWO.
It sounds fantastic. Again, all the trips you offer to veterans are free of charge to those veterans. Let's talk about some of those trips. One you've been doing for quite some time is the Ketchikan fishing trip at Kingfisher Lodge over by Craig, Alaska.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, phenomenal. And the Haydu family is just spectacular. They do a phenomenal job bringing those warriors out and taking them fishing offshore for 3-4 days and catching halibut and rock bass. I mean, just all kinds of crazy fish. And then the warriors get to take some of that fish home and have something to eat, which is also, pretty special. And, we've got another fishing trip up in Alaska that's a salmon fishing trip at Hoodoo Lodge. And the warriors get the opportunity to catch all 5 species of salmon that are running in that river. And there's 2 species of trout. Completely off the grid when you're fishing. There's no cell phone service. You won't see another person outside of our group the entire time you're there. It's simply amazing, and a place that you can really just kind of disconnect from social media, disconnect from your phone, and just be in the moment with people. And that's truly, truly special, all the way up to British Columbia, which is where, my first hunt was on a bear hunt up in BC. Just so many amazing trips and so many amazing donors and hosts that make these trips possible. It's truly amazing and life-changing for the warrior.
You've got a couple of other trips that are worth mentioning. A South Florida gator trip. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so the South Florida gator trip is a sporty one. You're catching a gator on a fishing rod, and then you're jumping into about a 10-foot john boat, and you're wrestling that gator all around that canal. And I mean, that gator could get you get it up to the boat because you got to get it up to the boat to bank stick it. And so I mean, you're up close and personal with this thing to the point where sometimes that 10, 11, sometimes 12-foot gator can get up under that boat, and you just hear the scoots on the bottom of that aluminum boat with a 10-foot john boat with about 5 guys in it. And it's a lot of fun. Really, really exciting in a special way to everybody has a job. You got 2 people holding fishing rods and you got the one warrior trying to bank stick, one person trying to guide the boat a little bit and make sure nobody's falling out or getting their limbs, any more limbs taken off. So it's a lot of fun.
That sounds like an adventure indeed. So we've got veterans listening today. We've got service members listening on the American Forces Radio Network across the globe. If they want to get involved with one of these trips, how do they do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a Facebook page, Wounded Warrior Outdoors. You can also contact us through the website, woundedwarrioroutdoors.org, and just send us a message. And then, the application process is very simple. Of course, we cater to combat wounded OIF, OEF. So, we'll send out an application. We'll request a DD-214 just so we can verify that the requirements are met. And then we'll get you logged in to a future trip, which is it's pretty amazing. And for somebody that's struggling, so if somebody's listening and one of your brothers or family members or whoever that's struggling, put this out there because it really is kind of something to look forward to. It's something on the horizon that provides a little bit of hope. And, once we connect with those warriors. It's really life changing because you once you separate from the military, you kind of lose that brotherhood a little bit. You're not next to your boys every single day, and and we have women too that are combat wounded. So it's really so when I say brothers, it's all inclusive, and you lose that connection. And being able to come back to people who have shared experiences, while maybe not at the same place, but a lot of times there's a lot of connection. Like, hey, I was here and I was there, and the conversations just start happening. But being able to reconnect is really what WWO is all about, because that's where the real healing is being able to reconnect and plug back in to that brotherhood.
Well, the website to go to, folks, is woundedwarrioroutdoors.org. And they also keep going because of donations. So if you are touched by this story, as I am and as others are, just go to woundedwarriorsoutdoors.com and donate today. Matt, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
I sincerely appreciate you guys and everybody out there and everybody listening. Appreciate your service.
On that note, it's time to wrap things up for the weekend. If you didn't get to hear the whole show, we will upload it as a podcast. Just look for America Outdoors Radio wherever you listen to your podcasts. And check out our website, too, at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Check out the sponsors that support us and support them. That's what keeps us on the air. Until next time, here's hoping you have a wonderful Veterans Day. Thanks to all of you who served. Be healthy, be blessed, and do remember this. It is your country and you're outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.